My name is Clay McLeod and I'm a middle school teacher in Kelowna, BC, located on the traditional unceded territory of the Syilx peoples. Over the last couple of years, I worked with Legal Aid BC to create a teacher's guide about colonialism and reconciliation for BC secondary teachers. These issues are presented through the framework of Gladue Rights and the graphic novel A Second Chance, a Gladue Rights Story, published by Indigenous Story Studio and Legal Aid BC. The teacher's guide can be used with the graphic novel or independently to facilitate exploration of and learning about colonialism and reconciliation. In particular, how the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in Canada's prisons and the criminal justice system is a product of Canada's colonial history and the continuing presence of colonialism in Canada today. The overrepresentation of Indigenous people in Canada's prison system is just one example of colonialism's impacts, but it is a stark one. While Indigenous people make up just 4% of Canada's population, they represent over a quarter of Canada's prison population. The Teacher's Guide discusses this overarching issue of ongoing colonialism and introduces Gladue Rights, which are the result of changes to the Criminal Code of Canada and intended to address the issue of systemic racism in the justice system. The Teacher's Guide includes background information about Gladue Rights and how they fit into the context of colonialism and reconciliation, lists of the 14 courses with which the guide can be used, such as Literary Studies 10, Law Studies 12, and Contemporary Indigenous Studies 12. Pre-planning learning activities that provides advice about teaching controversial issues, establishing respectful group norms, and considering students' backgrounds. We designed the guide with the Know, Do, Understand model of BC's redesigned curriculum in mind. Appendices B and C are two descriptions of learning standards modeled on the redesigned curriculum and show how teaching and learning about Gladue Rights addresses many learning standards. The activities aren't step-by-step, but they give ideas and background information to guide teachers in designing learning experiences suited to their students and courses. This flexible approach is consistent with the concept-based, competency-driven, and student-centered approach of the redesigned curriculum. By adjusting activities and the depth and breadth of the content to be explored, teachers can incorporate students' interests, questions, and lines of inquiry into the teaching and learning process. The Social Studies section includes ideas for teaching and learning about restorative justice and the historical thinking concepts. The English section includes ideas for responding to the graphic novel and for using it as inspiration for students to develop their own creative works. The cross-curricular section envisions the possibility of interdisciplinary learning, including potential collaboration between teachers. It includes instructions on how to use the Critical Thinking Consortium's U-shaped discussion activity to develop critical thinking skills while learning about Gladue Rights, colonialism, and reconciliation. You can download a PDF copy of the guide and the graphic novel from the Aboriginal Legal Aid in BC website at aboriginal.legalaid.bc.ca/resources. From the drop-down menu, What Would You Like to Learn About? Select Aboriginal Peoples. You can also download the PDF from the Teach BC website at teachbc.bctf.ca. Search for Gladue Rights.